great basketball.
Defender to the basket, Jaylen.
Be covering pre and post game back on this channel.
Oof, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back in to Celtics Talk Weekly. I'm Rob. I'm your host. Just me again today. We're doing these next day after live streams. First one was fun. First one did well. Celtics, they go down 0-3. They lose game 3 on the road. And hold on 1 second. They lose game 3, go down 0-3. Season's essentially over. It's a game 7 for 4 straight games, even if they were to do it. No team in NBA history has ever done it. They don't deserve my confidence anymore, so they aren't going to do it. I believe in them always. I'm a Celtics fan through and through, but at some point you got to be realistic with yourself. And you just got to say, yeah, they're not going to do it because they're just not. They definitely quit. Last night, the whole world saw it. It was on display. It's kind of crazy to see a Boston Celtics team do what they did last night. It was on a national scale. I mean, if you go on Twitter, everyone saw it front and center. It was the Boston Celtics quitting and essentially giving up on the season after having the second best record in the NBA in a must-win game. They came out flat, and I think once they came out flat, they weren't interested in playing a grit and grind type of basketball. I think once their shots weren't falling, once they had accepted the fact that the Heat probably were going to give them a good run for their money, because the Heat are strictly business. The Heat come to play every single night. I think once they saw that, they threw in the white flag and essentially wrapped up their season last night. Let's talk about last night stats-wise. Let me pull up the stats real quick. I should have had it prepared beforehand, but I didn't. I think Tatum and Brown had 14 and 12 respectively. They didn't play the third quarter. I know that. So Tatum had 14 points in 33 minutes. I mean, he still played 33 minutes. That's a lot of basketball. Brown, he had 12 points. Smart had 8, and 9. It was just, it was just no heart. That's the best way to put it. If I had to guess what happened, honestly, I think it was the coaching. I think I can finally say that. My sample size is done. And that's what I've been saying all year, is that, you can't talk about firing coaching. We're in game 62. There's no reason to talk about firing the coach. You just got to try to work with what you got. I was never a fan. I'm never a fan of talking about firing the coach mid-season, because I think that's never the answer. But you got to fire Mazzulla. He is probably the worst coach in the NBA. He's not qualified for the job. It's not his fault. I feel bad. He's a good guy. I like him. But he's asked to go in and coach a championship or bust team with the only coaching experience he has is Division II level. He was second row head coach last year. He was not NBA ready. He was probably 8 years of assistant coaching, honestly, before he was NBA ready. He probably had eight more years of an assistant before he was qualified for an NBA job. Right around there, that's what Ime was at. Ime was with the Spurs in 2014 when they won their ring, and then 8 years later, he finally got his first head coaching gig. So it takes some time in the NBA to go from an assistant to a championship, not forget championship level coach, head coach. You got to go through, you got to be under some good guys. Ime was under Pop, and then he got a year under Doc, and then I believe he was in Brooklyn with, was it Steve Nash? I think Ime was in Brooklyn. So Ime was passed around, and he's been around the league and been around great minds, and he was able to develop a scheme. And I mean, I get it. I right now you got to look at the management and Brad and thinking, why the hell did you suspend or fire Ime when he's already got another job? Clearly, what happened wasn't good enough or big enough or significant enough for him not to be in the NBA anymore. But that's that's we can't dwell on Ime. I think it's now time to start thinking about what we do this offseason. And I got a couple directions I want to go. First direction this offseason that I want to go, that is finding a new big man. And I'm talking a serious big man, and I'm talking a starting all-star caliber big man. I want someone with the likes of Jaren Jackson Jr., Jared Allen, Clint Capella. I want one of those guys. Nicholas Claxton. I don't know. It's going to be a high asking price, but listen, my thing with Robert Williams is I love Robert Williams. I love him to death. But just the fact of the matter is that he's not going to stay healthy. So I explore new big men territory. You can always go for a backup big. I'm okay if we roll into next year with Robert Williams as our starting big man. I'm okay with that. However, you need to explore the big man market. You have to. There's some certain players on this team. Peyton Pritchard. You throw Pritchard in a first-round pick for a team that is selling this offseason, you can get some good value for that. Pritchard in a first can get you a real backup big man, I believe. So I'm doing that. And again, I explore it. You don't have to pull the trigger, but you explore what big men are available out there in the trade market. 3 big names. Again, I'll say it again. Jaren Jackson Jr., Memphis is looking like a mess and a wreck right now, with Ja Morant potentially being suspended for more than half the season. They might go a different direction with this thing. The NBA is operated quick recently. No teams are waiting, and you're either tanking or you're competing for a championship in this NBA. And they're not championship contenders, so you might see them try to go a different direction. You call them up, Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe offer Marcus Smart, Grant Williams, Peyton Pritchard, whatever it may be. Call them up, see what it takes. Next point I want to make, next person I look into moving, and honestly, you can call me crazy, but that is Marcus Smart. I think Marcus Smart's time with Boston is over. I love Smart, and it's really hard for me to picture a basketball team and a Celtics team winning a championship without Marcus Smart on the roster. However, he's been here for 8 years. He's made 1 NBA championship, 5 Eastern Conference Finals, and 1 Defensive Player of the Year. There's not much more this guy's going to help you do. There are a lot of times throughout this postseason where I think Marcus Smart hurt you more than he helped you. I think Mazzulla and the head coach feels obligated to play Marcus Smart down the stretch of the ball game because he's the longest tenured Celtics. I think you need a head coach, first of all, that isn't going to do that. So, but head coaching, we're going to go into head coaching after this. So Smart. I'm exploring the Marcus Smart market. I don't know what his value is. I believe you could throw him in a package and get significant value for Marcus Smart back for that big man. I also think you need to find a power forward replacement for Al, because my next person I get rid of is Al Horford. It didn't work. He was old and brittle through the entire playoffs. His age really started to show. I thought he had a great defensive series against Joel Embiid. However, Al Horford cannot be in the starting lineup next year. You have to find a replacement for Al Horford. Al Horford's the type of guy that should be playing 20 minutes max all season long, keep his legs fresh, and then maybe he can give you something for the playoffs. He's a veteran locker room presence. He's a guy that's been there before. However, this guy shouldn't be playing 38, 40 minutes on a championship level team all regular season. And then you're going to try to ask this man to do that for the all postseason too. It's not going to work. It didn't work. It failed. It's okay. Let's explore the Al Horford market or the Al Horford replacement market. You don't have to trade Al Horford, but you need to get Al Horford a replacement. And I think you start, again, Jaren Jackson. Jerami Grant, I think, from Portland's a guy that you could explore. I know he's making a lot of money. Sadiq Bey, I think, is another guy from Atlanta. John Collins from Atlanta. A couple guys around the league that I think you could um go after it, and they could run that four spot pretty well. And you could, what's the free agency class actually? I don't think we have much money, but let me get the NBA free agency class on. All right, so I mean, call me crazy. Kristaps Porzingis is a free agent. He's got a player option, and he's going to be a hefty price. But guys like that, you explore that market. I think this offseason, nothing's off the table for the Boston Celtics. You got to explore every single option, whether it's looking for guys like to trade Smart or Dwight or whoever it is, new head coach. I really don't think there's a guy who is safe on the Celtics team this offseason. Obviously, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are safe. That brings me to my next point. Jaylen Brown. What do you do with Jaylen Brown? You extend Jaylen Brown. If Brown wants out, he is still obligated to play for us next season on contract. So it's not going to happen this offseason if Brown wants to leave. He will at least run it back for a year with us. However, we can offer Jaylen Brown at $100 million extra dollars this offseason. You can get almost $287 million over 5 years. He's going to take that contract extension if it's offered to him, which it should be. He would be crazy not to. He's going to take that extension, and then if worse comes to worse, he'll request out later down the road. But he's not going to pass up that $100 million difference because he made All-NBA second team. He wants to get paid. At the end of the day, you got to get paid. He was on, honestly, a smaller contract to begin with that we signed him to and extended him to, I believe, in the 2019 offseason. We extended him. And so he's already kind of been on a pay cut. You extend Jaylen Brown ASAP because you can still win an NBA championship with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as your two guys. Don't get it twisted. Don't let this weird Eastern Conference Final series to steer you away from the truth. The truth is those two guys will bring you a championship. They can bring you a championship. You put the right pieces around them, they'll do it. What are those pieces? That's the question. Head coaching job. This is, in my opinion, the biggest topic of conversation. Last time I came on here and was talking, I talked about continuity and how the Celtics have really none of it over the past 4 seasons or 3 years. 3 seasons, 3 head coaches, really 2 different types of cores of guys in a different coaching staff almost every single year. You need continuity, you do. But again, Joe Mazzulla is probably the least qualified, worst head coach in the NBA. And I don't know if you can roll with this guy again. I think you play with fire if you roll with him. I think the reason it was so obvious that we quit is because he lost the locker room and guys didn't want to play for him anymore. I think he doesn't know what he's doing. Games 1 and 2, you could argue we could have won both of those, and we lost them because his lack of awareness of his actions. No timeouts on both huge runs by Miami. No coaching adjustments. He stuck true to his philosophy that you start Al Horford just because his name's Al Horford, or you finish the game with him. When Robert Williams, in my opinion, was the best player this series for the Boston Celtics, was Robert Williams and Jason Tatum. Were the 2 best guys for us. I think Smart has had 2 out of 3 good games, passing and rebounding and scoring wise. But I think Jason Tatum and Robert Williams have been your 2 best players this series. And Robert Williams was nowhere to be found on the basketball court to finish the game off in games 1 and 2. And that zone, the Robert Williams was the reason we were breaking the Heat zone. He checks out, and Al Horford and the Celtics just get lost and give up a lead. So again, the Heat out-toughed us. They out-muscled us. They wanted it more than us. They're not a better basketball team than us. But when you add a coach with Spoelstra and you add the confidence that those guys are playing with and they have, you get something really special. And that's what you're seeing in Miami right now, is a team that has trust and a team that has faith in their head coach and their star players, and they're clicking on all cylinders. And we came victim to that, and we rolled over and we let Jimmy Butler send us home. But let's talk about head coaching jobs because I think there's a couple guys I want. Nick Nurse. I know Nurse is talking right now to the Sixers and the Bucks, and that would be worst case scenario for the Celtics for Nurse to go to one of those two teams. Monty Williams, I think I really like. He's a guy that I'd go after. The Suns just fired him. I think Monty Williams is a good look. I think Mark Jackson. Now, Mark Jackson's a guy that has been sitting around for a minute now on the ESPN crew. And he was a great head coach for the Golden State Warriors. He had that one disappointing playoff series, and they moved on from him and went to Steve Kerr, Golden State. So I think Mark Jackson is a guy that you should look into. He's a guy that will tell the locker room as it is. He's a former NBA player. Gives me Ime Udoka vibes. I think another problem you're running into with Mazzulla is he's taking the blame for the players. And while it is his fault, the blame's going in the right direction for the most part. There was a lack of engagement and physicality that the players didn't bring. And these players respond to words and to media and public conversation. Marcus Smart brought to the media last year about how Tatum and Brown don't want to pass down the stretch. Udoka, he said it as it was. He looked to the media and he said, no, we need more physicality. We're playing like a bunch of bums. This, XYZ. There was that story of how he went into the huddle during the playoff and he looked at everyone, and excuse my language, but he said, man, you guys are playing like a bunch of pussies. If you don't want to play, F you and go back to the locker room. Celtics came out and they won the game. I believe it was against the Bucks, game 4. So that's how the Celtics respond best to. That's how they are so good and respond so well. I think Mazzulla's a Brad Stevens type, and he will, point the finger at himself. He'll take the blame. He'll redirect it from the players, when in reality, the players need that blame getting pointed at them, this group and this core, because they respond so well when the blame is going towards them and at their direction. So yeah, Monty Williams, Nick Nurse, Mark Jackson, 3 guys I'm looking at. I think all 3 of those you can't go wrong, but at the same time, I'm exploring the market. I don't know if Tyronn Lue will be around for the Clippers next year. I don't look at Doc. I don't want Doc Rivers around. Honestly, you explore everything. You call up Budenholzer everywhere. You call everywhere. You talk to as many coaches as you can. You got to get a guy that is going to not push anything under the rug, going to give it to them straight up. Quite frankly, I'm not really mad this season's over, because this season was a big disappointment through and through. This team should have won more than 57 games. This team should have been higher than the 2 seed. This team shouldn't have gone 6 games against the Hawks. Shouldn't have gone 7 games against the Sixers. And now we're looking at a series where we're going to get swept. So it was, in my opinion, an overall bad year. Tatum should have finished higher than 4th in the MVP race. Great year for Brown. He finished 2nd team All-NBA. He was an All-Star. He got his recognition he deserved. But I think as a whole, it was just a wreck for the Celtics. There was no consistency after game 35, 37. There was a really lackluster of willingness to show up, I think, a lot of the time post All-Star break. These guys just kind of got tired of it. And yeah, that goes to the coach. The coach is the rallier of the group. He's the leader at the end of the day. He's the one who's calling the shots. And if your players aren't ready to go out to battle every night, you're looking at the leader. And technically speaking, the leader of this basketball club is Joe Mazzulla. So you got to move on from Joe. I get it. Continuity was something I was talking so heavily about in my last show, but I don't know, because I think continuity is very important, and you look at this team and there's not much continuity, but at the same time, these group of guys have been playing together for so long that I think you got to get a better head coach. I still sit down with Brown and Tatum and I say, where do you guys want this direction of this franchise going? If they say it's Mazzulla, then maybe, just maybe, I'm okay with it. Maybe. But I think that you cannot roll the dice with another season under Joe Mazzulla, even if Brown and Tatum support it. He was horrible this postseason. I mean, horrible. The Celtics won 57 games and went to the Eastern Conference Finals off pure talent alone. I don't think there was a single thing he did that, I'm sorry, that contributed to this winning. I think offensively he got us to move a little bit more than Ime, but I also think offensively Malcolm Brogdon just added a new sense of offense, and Derek White got a full offseason in Boston, and I think Al Horford was told to shoot more threes, and Al's a guy that when he's told to do something, he'll do it pretty well. So I don't really credit Joe Mazzulla for much of anything that happened this year. To think he was a Coach of the Year finalist is wild to me, because I'm sorry, I might be harsh, but Mazzulla really didn't do anything significant this year for the Celtics. That being said, technically the series isn't over, right? Like there is still a game to be played. You figure you win game 4, you're going back to Boston anyway, right? You might as well play a game back in Boston and see if you can get crazy. But I don't think that's how they're going to come out. I think they're done with the season. I think it was quite obvious in game 3 that they're done with the season. However, I am a C's fan, so end of the day, I'm gonna root for these guys. Game 4 is tomorrow. We'll see what happens. If I had to predict, if I had to guess, these guys kind of just mail it in. They just kind of hoop for 48 minutes, and if they win the game, so be it. They win the game. But I think the Heat just want it more. It's so obvious. It's so clear that they've gone on this run that has been pretty impressive, that they're not just going to let I don't think they don't want to take another trip down to Boston. Yeah, because it's just frustrating. It's so frustrating to think about. The Celtics are currently sitting here in this position down 0-3 to the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. Despite how good they've been playing, they are the 8th seed. You are what your record says you are. They are the 8th seed. They're a 500 basketball club, and a 500 basketball club is about to sweep us. If you ask me, I think it's probably this season was a bigger disappointment than the 2019 Kyrie Irving team, because I think this team was better than that team. You had a team that went to the NBA Finals on a championship roster last year, but a team that went into the NBA Finals, and you made it a championship roster. You added guys like Malcolm Brogdon, Blake Griffin, right? Key pieces. You got the addition of a new Derek White, and you don't make the finals. Not just don't make the finals. What was the one? There was one scenario that I was okay with this season ending, and that was a Game 7 loss on the road in Milwaukee. That was the one scenario I was okay with this year ending. It didn't end like that. But honestly, I think we should have seen it coming, I think, as Celtics fans from the jump, because I think it was kind of clear. Those losses against bad teams spewed bad habits and bad coaching. If you can't get your team to show up every single night, if you can't get your team to show up every night, then that's on the coach. You got to beat the bad teams. It develops bad habits if you just show up and mail it in. And what's happening now against the Heat? They're showing up and mailing it in. They mailed it in against Atlanta because and they mailed it in against Philadelphia, game 1 and game 5. So this year was, in my opinion, a huge letdown. They still got to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I don't think the only good thing that came of it was Jaylen Brown's All-NBA selection, so that we could offer him that big boy contract. Other than that, we wasted one of the last years of Al Horford. We wasted a year of Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, and Marcus Smart. They probably got 3. Like, they don't have a whole lot of time. They're not getting any younger. What else did we get out of this year? We are kind of stuck in the same position we were 2 years ago, where we don't know the head coach. And I know what you guys are saying, series isn't over, but you have to go based off of you got to be realistic here. No team's ever come back down 0-3. If they do it, then oh my God, will it be a crazy story, right? You figure you win one, you got to go back to Boston anyway. Play with house money. You got nothing to lose at this point. You're already the laughing stock of the NBA. Play with house money. Go in game 4, just hoop. Play basketball. Jason Tatum says they have he plays his best when he's just having fun and it's pure hooping. Well, you got nothing to lose. You're down 3 games. Go out and hoop. You figure go back to Boston for a game 5, do it again, go hoop. Right? If you can win 2 in a row, then you're in the same situation you were in against Philly where you're down 3-2. You got to go, on the road and win a game and then come back to the Beantown and win a game 7, right? Why not us? You're right. And I hope you're right. I really hope you're right because I would love nothing more than to come back down 0-3. But history is 0-149. And what last night showed me was that this team isn't about winning. They're done with it. If they came out last night and were playing 48 minutes of tough basketball and they were diving on the loose ball and it was a close game and the Heat just kind of got lucky and right, like maybe I'd say, okay, they're coming out and they're going to win game 4 because they don't want to get swept. They have some integrity. They didn't. They quit. The starters didn't play the fourth quarter. I mean, what am I supposed to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, "Oh, we're going to come back down 0-3"? No, I'm not. Why do they deserve? Why does this team deserve that credit? I love this team. I love these guys. I'm going to ride with these guys until they're no longer here and I'm no longer here, right? But end of the day, you have to deserve that. You have to earn that, I think, that respect and almost that like, oh, well, like LeBron James, for example. LeBron's earned that like, oh, maybe LeBron can do this down 0-3 type of thing, right? It's LeBron James. What have we shown? All we've shown is quit. We've shown no fight. Hell, the Lakers went down 18 quick points in down 0-2, and they came back and they made it a ball game. Jamal Murray had 30 points at half, and the Los Angeles Lakers found a way to make it a ball game. Right? Like, why should I sit here and say, oh, well, the Boston Celtics, they have pride? They don't. They don't have pride. They showed it last night. They have no pride. I'm sorry. I mean, someone's got to call it as it is. I'm the most optimistic guy you'll ever see. But at some point, you have to look at this basketball team and say, what the hell? What the hell? You lose both at home, and then you go cough up game 3 like that, which is essentially a game 7 down 0-2. Game 3s are the most pivotal game of the series. And you're just going to cough it up like that. Come on. There's levels to things. And the Boston Celtics got embarrassed. So why should I sit here and say, oh, well, game 4, they're going to show some pride? They didn't show pride in game 1, 2, or 3. Hell, Jimmy Butler made us look like a play-in team. We look like a play-in team. It was clear. Mazzulla said it. He lost the locker room. It's clear as day. So, like I said, I'm gonna ride with these guys, right? This is my squad. I'm a Celtics fan till I die. I'm a big one too. I against down 3-2 against Sixers, I was there supporting them. I knew. I said you threw up a post. Believe in Boston. We did it last year. We'll do it this year, right? I've given this team the benefit of the doubt all season long, every series, last year, this year, the year before that, 3 years before that. I've given this team the benefit of the doubt. But this series is different. To get swept, hell, Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics were able to get one game against that Brooklyn Nets team with Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden. And we can't win a game 3. We can't win one game against the 8th seed? Against the 8th seed. We can't win one game against the 8th seed. Yet Jason Tatum by himself was able to win a game against the Brooklyn 2-seeded Nets. What does that tell me? Coaching. It tells me that this team doesn't like this coach. That's what it tells me. That the coach doesn't know what he's doing. It's clear as day. The coach, they don't want to play for the coach. They're sick and tired of the coach. I hate to say it. I'm sorry. But again, I don't know if this is your first time listening to me, then you might think I'm a pessimistic Celtics fan, but I am as optimistic as it gets. I think in all season long, last year too. It took me 40 games to admit the Celtics probably weren't going to be good last year, and they proved me wrong. So who knows? Maybe they'll prove me wrong, right? Maybe they'll prove me wrong. But at this point, I think I want to see us get swept. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. I don't know if I can take another 3 game. I mean, if this goes to a game 6, all I'm going to be able to think about is, are you kidding me? If we just won one of those first 3 games, we'd be winning the series right now. Right? It's like, oh my, it would hurt more if this goes to a game 6 or even a game 5. If we win a game 4, I'm like, are you kidding me? If you just won one of those games back in Boston, it's 2-2 going back to Beantown right now. Just lose. like just at this point, I'm just like, oh my God. It's just, I think it would hurt more to win. But yeah. Again, I am very optimistic with this basketball team. I've said it over and over again, but at some point you can't give them the benefit of the doubt. And this was bad. Game 3. I mean, you had Magic Johnson tweeting. He tweeted out, "I can't believe that this is the same organization that I played against back in the 80s." That's Magic Johnson. That's a top 2, if not 1 point guard of all time. Arguably top 6 player of all time. Magic Johnson, 5 rings. Talking about ex-Laker legend, Boston Celtic rival, talking about how the Boston Celtics are a bunch of pussies, essentially. I really hope this ages poorly too. I hope I look back and I hope this is something that we look back on and it's like, oh my God, the Celtics did it. The Red Sox did it. Hell, 20 years ago. The Red Sox freaking did it. Right? And they got embarrassed in all 3 of those first games. I guess we just might need a bloody sock. Shift the energy a little bit, right? Because I don't know. I think this is wrapped. Because the record says 0 and 100 or 0 and 149. The Celtics essentially kissed their season. Maybe if this was 3-1 or 2, we're down 2-1 right now and we lose game 4, I think we'd come back down 3-1. But it's a different type of, even if we win game 4, it's a different type of 3-1. In my opinion. I think it's a different type of 3-1. You might call me crazy. It's just the fact that you being down 0-3 at one point, I think is so mentally and emotionally draining that it just takes everything out of a basketball team. But we'll see. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm not right. But again, I got a pretty good sense on this type of thing. And I think this one, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Believe in Boston through and through. But at the same time, man, oh man, is it tough to believe right now as a Celtics fan. Thank you guys so much for listening in, joining in on my my little live video today. I'll have you guys covered after game 4, win or lose, whether it's just me or the other guys. I'll be here. So again, thank you so much for listening in, watching in. I'm Rob.